right. Welcome once again to another live stream episode. I know it's been probably 2 weeks since I last went live. Well, not 2 weeks, but the week before last. Just took a little break, had a bunch of stuff I had to do traveling wise and work wise. So now I'm back again with a vengeance. And I got an awesome array of different topics for you guys. Just especially as now Adobe Max just happened, so they've been adding new things and also me just editing a lot, new techniques. You know how it goes down, but definitely take this with a caveat and just for people in the comments and all that. This is just my take on it, what I do. If you have your own personal way of doing it, be my guest and do it that way. Or if you want to chime in and suggest something else, do it. But remember, this is just the way that I do it. If you want to do it a different way, then by all means, go ahead. So now let's jump right into it. Okay. So we're going to start by talking about the title, which is how to fix shaky footage with warp stabilizer twice. You've heard of once, but now we're going to talk about it twice. So sometimes warp stabilizer, if you've ever used it, doesn't quite get it. You apply, wait, and it's still a little shaky. But here's the trick. You can actually stabilize it twice right inside Premiere Pro. No After Effects needed. Do it right within the program. And that's what we want to do, right? Make everything easier so that way we could just do it right on the spot within the program, right? Workflow. So if Warp Stabilizer doesn't fix it the first time, hit it again. So twice. So this works because, Warp Stabilizer by nature analyzes the camera motion and it applies like digital correction. But sometimes there's clips that are just way too shaky, especially with the rolling shutter, zoom pass. One time isn't enough. So instead of leaving Premiere Pro to go to After Effects or any other program, you can reapply it inside Premiere Pro using the nesting technique. And nesting lets you lock in the first stabilization, and then you can apply a second pass on top. And that's exactly what we're going to do here today. So remember, you're not stacking effects. You're stabilizing a new version of your already stabilized clip. Okay, so we're doing it twice. Awesome. So now let's do it. So we're going to click this footage that I have here, and I actually shot this on the inside of an airplane, as you can see right here on the screen. And I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like without anything on it, just raw live, right? So as you can see, there's a little bit of shakiness in there. It's just a lot of, you can kind of see the window kind of just going up and down, especially that end part right here. Let's take the really shaky part. So it starts getting a little shaky right here. Dynamite, let's just move it on this side. All right. So that's that. So what we're going to do is look up Warp Stabilizer. So we're going to go to the Effects tab, and we're going to type in Warp Stabilizer, and it pops up right here. And then we're going to move it right onto the clip. And now we're going to go to the Effects panel, and then you can see on the window that it actually has a blue band, and it says that it's analyzing in background. Step 1 of 2, because the second step is stabilization, right? So we're going to let it do its thing right there. But while it does that, we're going to come down here to the effects control and then look at Warp Stabilizer. Now you'll be able to see that it'll kind of give you a percentage and doing frame blank out of 83 frames in this example. Okay, so it's just letting it analyze. And let's preview exactly what it did, just straight up default, right? So let's see how it stabilized it. Okay, so it's not bad. It's not terrible, but it's still a little bit shaky. Now, it still kind of jitters, breathes a little bit, and this is technically your cue to go to pass 2, right? Sometimes the first stabilization fixes big shakes, but leaves the small motion waves, and that's where the nested trick comes in. So the first pass calms the chaos, and then the second one perfects it. So that's a beautiful way to put it. So now, what I want to do before I move on to the next step is I want to show you a couple of things here. So we see warp stabilizer, stabilization, smooth motion. So the smoothness we'll see at the default's 50%. Now these are just the way that I do things. You don't have to do it this way at all, but by any means, feel free to use this, right? So smoothness 50%, we're actually going to change that to 10%. And it's more of like a benchmark at this point. And the method, instead of the subspace warp, we're going to use position, scale, and rotation. Now, the other thing that we're going to do is right here in the advanced one, we're going to click on that little down arrow, and then you'll see detailed analysis and fast analysis already checked in. So we're going to uncheck the fast analysis and then check the detailed analysis, right? Now, what it's going to do, it's going to reprocess and reanalyze all the frames. And as you can tell from these choices, instead of doing a quick analysis, it's going to do a detailed frame by frame analysis. So, we don't want to move on to the second one just yet. Let's change these settings first, and then we'll see what the preview is, and then what it actually how it actually fixed it. And again, we're using a very, very short clip because, as you can tell, this takes some time. 7 seconds in, it takes some time to process, and just be wary of that. So, all right, let's go ahead and did it. Let's see what it comes up with. So let's take a look at the monitor right now. And okay, it's still, a little bit better than before. You can still see some shakiness, but it's a little bit less wavy and subspace. Sometimes I know it kind of does like a jello effect. So this kind of takes care of that. Now we're going to move on to step number 2. Okay. So we're going to right click on this clip, and we're going to nest it. And then we could name it whatever we want, but we'll choose a name. But right before I do this, I want to make a little caveat. This is also another way by nesting the clip that you can actually kind of loophole something that the program doesn't let you happen. If you happen to change the time remapping on this, like let's say it's slow motion clip, you shot it at 60 and you slow it down or speed it up. If you manage to change any type of speed, and then what you try to do is put the warp stabilizer effect on there, it's not going to let you do it. It's just a no-no in the program. You'll get the big error box immediately. But one way to bypass that is that you can actually do what we're going to do now. You could right-click and then nest the clip. And then once it's nested, then you apply the warp stabilizer, and it still works even though you remapped the original footage. So I'll actually demonstrate that at another time, but right now let's do it with this one. So second pass, right? We're going to right-click, and then we're going to go to this option right here, nest. We're going to nest it, and let's save the name. Let's do stabilization test. Awesome. So as you can see, it turned that blue clip green, and that means it's nested. So now we're going to go to the effects panel, warp stabilizer again, click on the effect, drag it onto the clip, and turn it, and right there it's analyzing again. All right, so it's going to analyze and do the same thing that it did before. And we're just going to do the default again, and if anything, we're just going to change it up again. But I want you guys to see the difference so that way you can apply it to yours. And then we're going to change the settings up a little bit, all right? Again, same technique for the time warp, and then you can't use it, not time warp, but the time remapping, and then try to apply a warp stabilizer. It's just part of the program. It doesn't let you do it. I've had to find out the wrong way, but it got done, all right? All right, cool. So then it's at 50% now, so it's working. It's working in there. And just remember, you can always get rid of a lot of shakiness just while this analyzes in the background by doing it on camera. Yes, you could use a gimbal or a tripod and all that. Even the way that you walk to kind of just make it less jittery as possible. But if you're like me and you like to vlog, sometimes you're on the go. And even though the camera or the lens you have might have an image stabilization option, sometimes it doesn't come out the best and it's still kind of rocky and shaky. But you know, that's the first level of defense. When you're recording, just keep that in mind. It's like, man, I don't want to run through all these warp stabilizations and all these processes that's going to take a little bit more time. So let me just try to minimize that damage in production while you're actually filming. All right, cool. So let's see what happens with the default. That's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty good right there. A little bit of shakiness at the end, but nothing too crazy. So now what we're going to do is change those settings to the ones that we did before. So if you guys remember, smoothness, let's go 10%. Subspace warp, we're going to move that position, scale, rotation, and then we're going to do a detailed analysis. All right, so it's going to start doing the whole thing over again, and then we're going to see what that comes up with. All right. And again, you know, try all these different effects or settings on the effect control panel, and then see which one works best for you and which one you kind of figured out is your workflow and works for you. And, you know, don't be afraid to go from one extreme to the other, because that's how you figure out how it gets done, right? And just, you know, nesting tells the act of actually nesting these clips. It tells Premiere Pro your first stabilized clip as brand new footage. And so Warp Stabilizer has clean motion to analyze again, right? So that's the beauty of making these things nested. And there's so many different things that you could do with nesting, and in video and in sound, grouping a whole bunch of different complicated sequences together and make them as one, so it's simple on the timeline. There's so many different practical uses of it, and I absolutely love it. All right, cool. So it's almost finished, and then we're going to see what it looks like on the second pass. All right, stabilizing. Dope. So take a look at the monitor, and let's see what happens. Dynamite. So that's exactly what it looks like right there. Now, let me actually go on. Let me do it on this one. Guess why not? I don't want to. I guess we could, well, grab the sound. Sorry about that. So we could do it this way. It's just going to look, it's just going to grab that. I was trying to do something a little bit so we could watch it, but it's okay. So yes, this is what it looks like after 2 passes. So the plane's actually turning and everything looks good. And to be honest, don't even be afraid of putting a warp stabilizer on it 3 times. Do it as many times as it takes. Obviously, people will tell you, hey, go to After Effects if it really you can't get rid of it. But try this option first, so that way you don't have to leave the program and it fits into your workflow. All right. So remember, nesting is how you make warp stabilizer smarter, not stronger. So keep those 2 things separate. And again, these are the tips for the best results, right? We're finished. Always apply the first pass before doing any type of color grading or cropping, right? For wide angle clips, use slower smoothness, like 10-15%, kind of like what we did here. I was using a 11 millimeter, so super wide. Avoid subspace warp, and that's the one that we changed to position scale for handheld shots. Yeah, because subspace warp, it'll just look all jiggly and it just won't look as good. So position scale rotation, make sure you change it to that. And if the image warps too much, like the Jello stuff, nest and try again with less smoothness. So again, it goes back to finding out how to tweak those controls and what works better for you. All right, so subtle stabilization always looks more professional than over correction, right? It's just a little slight stabilization. So next time warp stabilizer doesn't fully fix your clip, don't give up. Nest it and hit it again. So 2 passes, 1 timeline, no After Effects. Try it today, and then make sure to tag me if it actually works for you and it saved your shot. So remember, you don't need After Effects to stabilize tough footage. Just patience and a second pass. So I appreciate all you guys for watching. If this helped you out, make sure to comment and let me know. And if you have any other suggestions,